Exceptional Leadership Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Hamilton. Delighted to have your company with me once again for a discussion today on the topic of failure and learning to fail properly. Now, that might seem like a bit of a strange thing to say and a strange way to look at it, but I do believe that learning to fail properly can be enormously beneficial with respect to your development, not just career-wise or as a leader, but literally in every field you choose to embark on an adventure in. Learning to fail is critical with respect to teaching you how to approach the same situation next time. And of course, we can get better results if we're able to learn those lessons. As we often do, let's delve back into some history and set the scene a little bit. This time we're going to go and have a bit of a look at a woman called Sarah Blakely and see how she refused to let the fear of failure stop her from achieving success. Here we go. Sarah Blakely was 27 years old, selling fax machines door to door in Florida. Most days she was met with slammed doors, indifference or outright rejection. But her mind was elsewhere, on a simple idea that had taken root during her struggle to find the right undergarment to wear under white pants. She wanted something that would smooth her figure without visible panty lines, but nothing existed on the market that met her needs. So she grabbed a pair of scissors, cut the feet off her controlled top pantyhose and wore them out. The difference was instant, and the idea for Spanx was born. Sarah had no background in fashion, no investors, no business experience, just $5,000 in savings and a gut feeling that she was onto something. She started pitching her idea to hosiery manufacturers and was rejected again and again. Over and over, industry experts told her it wouldn't work. It was too niche, they said, too odd, too amateur. But Sarah wasn't afraid of failing. From a young age, her father had encouraged her to embrace failure, not to avoid it. He would ask her at the dinner table, "What did you fail at this week?" and celebrate the attempts, not just the wins. And that mindset gave her the freedom to keep going when others would have stopped. So eventually, after months of rejection, one factory owner took a chance. Sarah wrote her own patent, created the packaging, and came up with the name Spanx on her own. She even sent samples to Oprah Winfrey's team, and remarkably, Oprah picked Spanx as one of her favourite things in 2000. Overnight, the brand exploded, and within a few years, Sarah Blakely became the youngest self-made female billionaire. She had taken an idea that no one believed in and turned it into a global brand, not because she had all the answers, but because she refused to let her fear of failure stop her from trying. And you know, guys, I was thinking about this topic and I have seen parallels in just about every single discipline I've chosen to pursue. I've seen it with work. I've seen it with academic pursuits at university. I've seen it with sports, big time in sports. It really is a bit of a superpower, I believe. Learning not to fear failure, but to see it as an opportunity to learn and inform. It is essentially just feedback. And what I want to do today, using that little excerpt there as some context, is I want to examine how we can not only incorporate that refreshed attitude towards failure in our own personal lives with our own endeavours, but I want to see if we can bring that into the leadership realm and get our teams performing a little bit better as well by coaching them on how to view failure and then increasing performance as a result. So essentially what we want to do is change our relationship and change our team's relationship with respect to failure. Because it is, as I said, nothing more than an opportunity to learn. It is just feedback. And what does feedback do? Well, feedback informs our approach to next time. And that really should actually give us confidence, because now we're going into that second attempt knowing the pitfalls, knowing the areas that we perhaps didn't prepare quite hard enough last time, and also with a better understanding of ourselves at times. If you're looking at a competitive event, for example, or having to give a presentation, you benefit, as uncomfortable as it can be sometimes, from learning what it feels like. Experiencing what it feels like. Oftentimes people will say that their second competition in whatever sport you care to mention is easier than their first one because they now know what to expect. They know what it feels like. They feel an adrenaline dump. Same thing can apply to presentations, for example. Oftentimes, the most scary bit is the lead up to it, isn't it? Another practical application might be job interviews. The scary bit is the fear. The doing is often nowhere near as frightening as the thought of it. But fear is convincing, isn't it? It's very convincing. It's meant to be. Because fear is designed to keep us safe. But we have to learn how to make it work for us. And if we don't conquer fear, we don't successfully adjust our attitude towards failure. So I think this mindset goes for both the personal level and the team dynamics as well. Because the fear of failure, in my view, has crushed far more dreams than failure itself has ever done. Getting the courage to step into the arena, to go for that promotion. I think I could do a good job, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm ready. I think I know what I would do, but I'm just not sure. And it's worth reflecting on the reality that when you get to a mindset like that, the only thing holding you back is literally fear and doubt. If you think you know what you should do, if you think you know how you can improve the situation, if you think you know how you can handle the state of play, reality is you probably can. You probably can. So the fear of failure, as I said, has crushed more dreams than failure ever has. And we know that conquering fear and reframing our view of failure will be tough because fear is literally a primal instinct designed to keep us safe. But in many ways, we're operating with outdated software as human beings. The reptilian part of our brain is literally firing off on all cylinders sometimes, in a boardroom or before a presentation. But it was never designed for that scenario. It was designed for keeping us safe, running away from leopards and tigers and lions on the savannah, or something equivalent. And that's why it feels so intense. But we need to learn how to master it. We need to learn how to make it work for us. And unfortunately, there is no easy way to do that. The only way that you can better your relationship with fear and mitigate the stressful effects of failure so that you have a healthy relationship with it that works for you, the only way you can do that is to step voluntarily into the fire. No one will do it for you. It has to be you who drives it. And that's hard. Taking that step to go, I'm going to risk it all. I'm going to fight through the butterflies and the shortness of breath and the sweaty palms and the fear of rejection and failure. And I'm going to have a go at it anyway because I know that long term this is better for me. I know that this is just a paper tiger. There's nothing to be frightened of. Super important, but often the hardest battle to win. And ironically, it is with ourselves and in our own heads. So how I want to think about this today and frame it is just in a practical sense. So I mentioned some common life scenarios there, job interviews, presentations, so on and so forth. That's more on the personal level. And yeah, we can work on those things. Having difficult conversations with our staff is another area that many leaders, particularly inexperienced leaders, trip up on. That fear of conflict. So we can work on that. But we have to reframe it. And we have to change our view of what the purpose for this interaction is. And that can be very helpful. Let's dig into that a little bit more. I'm afraid of conflict. I'm afraid of a presentation to my peers. Why? Because I don't want to be found wanting. I don't want to be rejected by the group, or I don't want someone to say something nasty to me, or a rift to be opened up if we're talking about having a conversation with a difficult employee. So reframe it. Whatever your reasons are, they're unique to you. But reframe your reasons. Why am I giving this presentation today? I'm giving this presentation today to help people, to be of service. I'm going to try and communicate some information to them, and hopefully that will spark a collaborative conversation. I'm having this difficult conversation with this tough employee today because I want to help them. I understand that if I don't clearly communicate with them and show them where the boundaries are, then it's going to be more difficult for them to understand where the goalposts are. So it doesn't mean that reframing it like that makes all that fear go away, but it does make it easier if you can put yourself into more of a service mindset. I'm not doing this for me. This isn't a performance. This isn't a confrontation. This is me helping. This is me being of service. This is me coaching. This is me wanting the best for someone. Food for thought there on how to frame or reframe from that personal perspective. Now let's get to the team level. Let's get to the team level. Let's make our lessons with our team, right? The way that we view failure, let's make it practical. So here's one for you. Let's say we do a project and we complete the project and most of it went well, but it wasn't as smooth as it could have been. We're not going to outright call it a failure, but it wasn't 100% successful, simply because we know in the spirit of continuous improvement that we can always do things better. So we're going to learn from failure being the fact that we didn't get it 100% perfect. And we're going to have a lessons learned session with the team, a debrief after the project wraps up. And we're going to look at what we did really, really well. And then in a collaborative setting, not a finger pointing session or setting, not a blame setting, but in a collaborative, team-oriented environment, we're going to sit down together and discuss what we thought we could have done better. We're not necessarily in the business here of talking about ownership at the individual level. We're approaching it as a team. What could we as a team do better next time? What did we get surprised by? What was unexpected? Where did the cost blow out and why? What areas did we perhaps not insulate ourselves against quite enough from a risk mitigation process? What client behaviors kind of surprised us? And that open and honest feedback session can make the world of difference because you make notes against each of those items in a meeting. You take it seriously. And then you collate them at the end of that process. And all of a sudden, you have all this knowledge and all of these lessons learned from multiple different perspectives that service you and guide you into the next project or task. And that is continuous improvement in its purest form. So guys, food for thought. I want you to reframe your relationship with failure. Oftentimes, and we could go into the weeds with this, but we won't today just for the sake of time, often a lot of this is also associated with the ego. Humans are really, really bad at letting the ego get in the way. And you might notice that you've got all the answers for someone else who's going through something or someone else who is having a hard time with failure. But if you are the third person and you're coming from that perspective, it feels like you got all the answers. And the reason it feels clear is because you don't have your ego involved. You're not emotionally invested. Whereas when it's you can't see the wood for the trees. And the reason we have that experience is because we have our ego tied to the outcome and the experience. So reframe your view of failure, remove the ego and look at it objectively at the individual level and the team level. And I guarantee your performance will not only be better, but it will feel better. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. It's so good to have your company. There's listeners from literally all over the globe tuning in. Very, very cool to know that we are beaming into your ear pods or earbuds in multiple parts of the world. I will ask that you subscribe to the show, guys. If you're getting value, whatever podcast app you consume the show on, please hit the subscribe button and follow the show. It does make the world of difference. Leave a 5-star review, follow us on the socials, and as always, guys, tell as many friends and colleagues as you can who you think might get some value from this show, and I would be eternally grateful. We'll leave it there. Until next time, goodbye.